An equation is anything that sets two things equal. So if it has an equal sign, it is an equation. That is the main thing you need to know. If it has an equal sign, it's an equation. A variable, y'all already know this, a variable is a symbol used, which is a letter of the alphabet, that represents a missing number. What's the most popular used variable in math? X. Okay, but it doesn't have to be by an X. It can be an A, a B, a C, whatever they want to use. Your goal when you're solving an equation is to isolate the variable. What does isolate mean? Get it alone. Get it by itself. And you'll see that's what I put in parentheses right here. To isolate the variable means to get it by itself. So basically, you want the problem to say X equals and then an answer on the other side. That's what I mean by isolate the variable. Get it by itself where it just says X equals an answer. Okay? Now, here's the most important part of today that you need to understand. You can move numbers from one side of the equal sign to the other. Okay? It's kind of like a fact family. So I'm going to show y'all. Everybody look up here. Y'all all know that 2 plus 3 is what? 5. You can also say 3 plus 2 is 5. Did I change anything? I did. What did I change? I changed the order, right? What else could I say as a fact family to make this true with these three numbers? 5 minus 2 is 3. And 5 minus 3 is 2. So when we're dealing with equations, it's kind of like fact families. If x plus 35 is 102, then 102 minus 35 is x. Does that make sense? So what you need to understand is you're not changing the equal sign's value by moving things around. It's like moving furniture within this classroom. If I move some desk around, I still have the same number of desks, and it can still be an equal sign, like it's still equal to what I started with, okay? So what you need to know is to move numbers from one side of the equal sign to the other, you use the opposite operation. You use the opposite operation, okay? I want y'all to think of an equal sign like a science triple balance beam. So if y'all look up here, if this is already equal, then they're standing like this, right? If I add 20 pounds over here, it's going to go like this. Yes? So if I want to keep it equal, if I add 20 over here, what do I have to do over here? I got to add 20. So whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, as long as you do it to the other side, it stays equal, right? Yes or no? If I have 100 pounds on both sides, it's equal, yes? If I add 10 over here, I have to add 10 over here, and it stays equal. So that's what you need to understand, okay? All right, to solve an equation, move numbers from one side of the equal sign to the other by using the opposite operation. All right, so let's talk about what is the opposite operation. What is the opposite of add?
Subtract.
What is the opposite of subtract? Add. What is the opposite of multiply? Division. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. What is the opposite of a negative? A positive. So you're looking at how you're going to get rid of it based off of those opposite operations. All right, so let's look at this first example. Now, y'all all know I've taught you how to put this in your y equals button. So yes, would you make 100 if you go check everything in your y equals button? Yes. But in Algebra 1, if you don't know how to do it by hand, you're going to have a big issue next year, so that's why we're doing this. If you draw a line down right here, it will help you keep the left side of the equal sign separate from the right. So this is the middle of the triple balance beam. Whatever I do over here, I have to do over here. Make sense? All right. I want to isolate the x. What does that mean? I want to get the x by itself. So I need to get rid of this plus 35. What is the opposite of plus 35? Subtract 35. But what I just did is I made my triple balance beam go unlevel. Because I did something to this side, and I didn't do it to this side. So I have to do it to both sides. Now, how did this work? I did it to both sides, so did the balance beams stay equal? And what just happened here? What is 35 minus 35? It's gone. I got rid of it. The x is now by itself. And I now have x equals, and whatever 102 minus 35 is, which is 67.
So it was still work like in y equals, right? But
you could still now go check it in y equals to make sure you did it right. So if I wanted to do that, the first thing I would do is check my windows, make sure they're set big, which you can see mine aren't. So negative 300, positive 300, negative 300, positive 300. And then go to y equals, put the left side, so x plus 35. Put the right side, 102. Second trace, option 5. Wait for its graph. Don't freeze it up. Enter, enter, enter. Did I get the answer that I just got? You'll see it? Yes, so you'll make 100 today by checking it, but you have to know how to solve them by hand. All right, go to this one. The first thing I'm going to do is separate the left from the right side. What is my job? I need to isolate the variable. So what do I need to get rid of? This negative 50. Now stop. That plus sign belongs to the x. So stop and look at it. How would you get rid of a minus 50? Plus 50. It would zero out. Okay, so I would plus 50. Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. This cancels out. Negative 50 plus 50 is 0. It's gone. I have now isolated the x, and now I'm going to put in my calculator negative 30 plus 50, which is 20. Could I go back in my y equals and check my work? Yes, and I'm not going to do that with y'all. You'll know how to do that. You do that, though, okay? I want y'all to try this one on your own, but before you start, what's different?
It's changed.
The x is on this side. So I'm trying to get this x by itself, so I need to get rid of the 5. So you're asking yourself, how would I get rid of the 5? That's what you're going to do to both sides of the equal sign. Everybody should be doing it. You want to get rid of the 5 so that the x can be by itself. So what is going on between x and 5? They're being added. What is the opposite of add? So I need to subtract 5 from both sides. Before you go on, all you have to ask yourself is, would that get rid of 5? What's 5 minus 5? So I got rid of it. That's your whole goal, is to get rid of it and move it to the other side. Okay? Now, how would I put this in my calculator? Negative 17 minus 5, which is negative 22 equals x. Is x by itself? Yep, so we're good to go. That's our answer. Questions on this? Now, look at the next one. What is my goal? To get the x by itself. What is going on between negative 5 and x?
They're together.
By what? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? They are being multiplied. This means negative 5 times x. What is the opposite of multiplication? Now I'm going to show y'all why it works, okay? You're going to divide both sides by what you see. So divide by negative 5. Why is this going to work? And I'm going to explain. What is negative 5 divided by negative 5? Anything divided by itself is 1. I now have 1 times x. What is 1 times x? We learned this last week. Just x. So is the x by itself? Yes, so I don't even have to write a 1 right there. I can if I want to. I can just write x equals. So when you divide a number by itself, it becomes a 1, and 1 times x is x. That's why it works. What is 125 divided by negative 5? Negative 25. Okay, look at this one. What is going on between the negative 25 and the x? Multiplication. The opposite is to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 25. Negative 25 divided by negative 25 cancels out to a 1, and 1 times x is x. And then negative 500 divided by negative 25. What's a negative divided by a negative? A positive 20. Any questions on adding, subtracting, or multiplying? Now look at the next problem. What is your job? To get the x by itself. This x is attached to this 10, and what does this line right here mean? Division. What is the opposite of division? Multiplication. Now I'm going to show y'all why it works. If I have, and you don't have to write this down, if I have x divided by 10, and I multiply by 10, what is that if I make 10 a fraction? 10 over 1, right? To multiply by a fraction, guys, you don't even have to understand this. I just know a lot of you like to understand it, so I'm going to explain it. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. 10 times x is 10x, and 1 times 10 is, what's 10 divided by 10? 1. Did it just get rid of itself? So that's why we're going to multiply. It cancels out. You don't have to understand it. You just have to know it. I'm going to multiply by 10. Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. This cancels out. It becomes 1. And 1 times x is x. So x is equal to 56 times 10, which is 560. And the last one I want you to try on your own. It is written backwards. You're getting the x by itself, so you need to get rid of the 5. So go do it. All right, how would you get rid of this 5 if x is being divided by 5? Multiply both sides by 5. That cancels out. And 5 times 50 is 250 equals x. If you want to write it like x equals 250, that's perfectly fine. Or you can write it like this. They mean the same thing. Should you check your answers in your calculator to make sure you're going to get 100? I'm not checking it for you, because your calculator will check them in y equals. But you must show your work. Everybody understand? All right, I'll pass out the assignment.